Welcome back to Candy's Classic Game Shrine, everyone, and today I'm going to go over my history and roots with the Virtual Boy. I get a lot of people asking me, how did you become so obsessed with the Virtual Boy? When did it all begin? So I'm going to take some time out today and go over my history and roots with the Virtual Boy. It all began in 2008. I was living in Pennsylvania, away from all my friends and everything I knew, and I had recently discovered the Angry Video Game Nerd a few years prior, and watching his episodes were pretty much the only thing that got me through living in Pennsylvania without losing my mind entirely. Lost it a little bit. But the episode about the Virtual Boy, like I had mentioned, it previewed in 2008 on Screw Attack and Game Trailers before it was on YouTube, and I had caught it. And James's in-depth review of the system and the library, or at least the American library in his video, it really piqued my interest about the system. I always enjoyed 3D. I always enjoyed little gimmicks that Nintendo would throw into their consoles, and the fact that the Virtual Boy had a Wario Land game really made me want to try it. And I was aware of emulation. I've emulated years prior with Game Boy and NES and you name it. I've emulated just about everything. But when I looked to emulate for the Virtual Boy, there wasn't really anything that substantial, that stable to work with at the time. So I kind of just brushed it off and said, maybe one day. So a few years went by, and it's now June 4th of 2014. And I'm surfing on the internet, and I come across a Virtual Boy forum called Planet Virtual Boy, or Planet VB, and I decide to join. And that's the second stage of my obsession. First was the introduction through James Rolfe and his AVGN character, and now the obsession really began when I became a part of the Virtual Boy community over on Planet Virtual Boy. Everyone over there was immediately welcoming. They answered all the stupid questions that my really ignorant ass didn't know at the time. And I still don't know everything. And I love how everyone on the forum is just really easygoing and very willing to help you learn or do something or give you things even. We're always helping each other out there. That's something that made me fall in love with the community. And because I fell in love with the community, I really fell in love with the Virtual Boy and everything that surrounded it. I've been members of video game forums for years, and you always get those gatekeepers and those holier-than-thou gamers that are on there, and you don't really get that with the Virtual Boy community. Everybody is just very kind and very nice. It's very refreshing in a video game community to see something so nice. But as the community and I grew closer together, we had they had convinced me to buy my first Virtual Boy after answering all the questions that I had, and by by June 12th, my first Virtual Boy unit arrived, which is that red one there. I enjoyed playing it. I think the first games that I had for it were Wario Land, and I know Tennis is in here somewhere, but Mario's Tennis was the other one that I had with it. I knew for certain that if I was getting the Virtual Boy, I had to have the Wario Land game, which pretty much is what started this adventure for me. I think I paid $10 for this back when it was, well, not when it was new, but when it was new to me, back in 2014-ish. The Virtual Girl. What is it? Is it a custom console? Is it something Nintendo released exclusively for a limited time? Or is it a project done to support the PC culture?
Girls can play this. Why can't it be called Game Boy Girl?
No, guys. It was actually just a joke that really just got out of hand. So let's start off from the beginning. The Virtual Girl's idea was proposed as a joke in the Planet Virtual Boy forums when we were talking about how we were curious as to how many other females were into the Virtual Girl. When somebody had said, and I'm going to loosely quote them, perhaps somebody should do up a Virtual Boy in paint and call it the Virtual Girl. We all laughed. At the time, we thought that was it. So we let it be for about a month or so. And let's see, that date was June 18th, 2014. Next up, it's about July now, July 3rd, and the displays went out on my red Virtual Boy. You know, the horizontal lines that you get. It happens when the adhesives on the LED ribbon cable start to come loose, and they're not attached well anymore, and it's a very tedious job. In the beginning, I didn't realize how tedious it was, and me being the do-it-yourselfer that I am, thought that I would be able to do it. I researched it on the forums, I asked a bunch of questions, and then I opened up the system and took the ribbon cables out. And then I realized that the components on them require a magnifying glass, a very steady hand, and were actually smaller than the components that I had to solder in the Game Gear that I modified. So at that point, I was still debating whether I should do it myself or not. So I went and I bought a parts console that wasn't working. The one display was kind of working, and the one that was working in the parts console was not working in the red console. So I figured I would swap them out. So basically, the the parts console arrived around July 25th, and I swapped out the ribbon cables, and it was working pretty decent for then. But then, inevitably, the ribbon cable started to come loose again. So at this point, having taken it apart, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this myself. So I contacted Amos, who is on the forum known as Runner Pack. He doesn't do these repairs anymore, but he was the best of the best at the time. And everybody went to him for the repair. He decided that he was going to help me out. I sent my stuff in for him to repair. Everything was good. During the time while I was waiting for it to come back, I thought back to that joke post that somebody had made about making a virtual girl. And I figured, I think I'm one of the only active female posters on the forum, and I have this spare parts console lying around. Why not, for shits and giggles, give it a fresh coat of paint and call it the Virtual Girl? We'll all get a few laughs and it'd be something to talk about. So, the Virtual Girl began work on July 23rd, 2014, and then Amos got wind of it and wanted to help out on the project by reviving the Virtual Girl into a working console again. And the ribbon cable on this was bad. Whoever had this before tried to solder it as well, and they weren't that great. But Amos did a great job. He pretty much revived this from dead. Neither of us thought he'd be able to revive it, but it's damn near good as new at this point, given the circumstances. I sent that in to him probably a few days after I had shown everyone on the forum that I started work, and I received the ribbon cables back on the 20th of July. No, was it the 20th? No. I sent them in to him on the 24th or so, and then I got them in at the end of the week, I think it was. That's what it was. At that point, while I was waiting for him to do everything, I took the Virtual Boy apart. I painted the shell, painted the knobs, the buttons, and I ordered a custom logo. Now, the custom logo was supposed to actually be painted onto the Virtual Girl. It wasn't supposed to be a decal, which it is on both the controller and the unit itself. It was supposed to be a stencil that I was supposed to receive, but the person that was doing the vinyl graphic wasn't able to get me the stencil, and long story short, I said, screw it, I'll just take the decal and do that. I never thought the Virtual Girl would be traveling as much as it did, or is still, getting as much attention as it is, so I kind of really regret doing that, but it's the fucking way she goes, to quote Trailer Park Boys. After all of the going back and forth with the vinyl supplier, I think I finally finished this project. Let's see, I started July 23rd, I started the Virtual Girl, and then I completed it September 13th, 2014. So it took me a few months to get this done, but honestly, it was really just because I was waiting on the vinyl, nothing more. Let's see. The Virtual Girl. My gosh, I can't believe it. I've got signatures from so many people. People ask me all the time what signatures are on here. There used to be 2 signatures on the controller, but it's gotten so much heavy use at cons that they kind of wore off. So Adam, Shane, if you're watching, you're going to have to re-sign the controller maybe. Not really, you guys don't have to. I still have it on here. Basically, I have Terry Diebold, who is the owner of the SNES prototype with the PlayStation CD or SNES CD, whatever you guys want to call it. I have, let's see, Norm the Gaming Historian here. I have James Rolfe, Pat Contry. I got Reggie Williams here. I've got Ian Ferguson. I've got John Riggs. This one, I believe, is Adam Korelix. Sorry, Adam, yours is difficult to read sometimes. I've got Gilly the Kid, Shane Lewis from Rerez, and Dave Crossan. He's one of the original founders of Classic Game Room. I could be missing a few. It's been a while and I'm running out of room on here. There are a few more signatures I'd like to get if people are willing to sign it, of course. I don't want to force them to sign this if they don't want to. But the benefit of them signing it, they get to play Hyper Fighting, because I always bring this with me to cons, when I have the Virtual Girl at least. I like letting people play a good game on it so they can get a good impression of the console. But ever since I finished, I noticed a website wound up posting an article on it. They didn't post the article after I was finished. I only noticed it after I completed the project. They wrote the article while I was still waiting for the graphic. And that was basically the beginning of the popularity of the system. Everyone on the forum fell in love with it, and yeah, it's pretty much taken a huge rise in popularity when I take it to cons and other gaming events. Throughout the next couple of years, I slowly added to my collection. I would add games. I added other homebrew items like the link cable. There's a Virtual Boy controller USB adapter. I've got a Nintendo Power Edition and so many more different Virtual Boy things. And as you can see, I am so obsessed with it. I have a amiibo that I made that's customized to it. And behind you, you can't see it right now, I have 2 wall prints of Virtual Boy stuff that I'll show in a picture or a clip in the video. But I think it was around September 25th or so of this year, I finally completed my entire Virtual Boy worldwide collection for the games. Admittedly, I have a couple repros in there. I'm not gonna drop like several $1,000s on virtual bowling. I'm sorry, but aside from like the heavy hitters 3 or 4 titles, everything else is real. I have a box for the Flash Boy that was given to me, or Flash Boy Plus, that was given to me by a friend on the forum. Hyper Fighting took a while, but I got it. Finally, I need to get myself another copy so I can play 2-player with people now. Since I've moved, I've lost my 2-player partner. I miss you, Paul. Wish I could make it to AVGC this year. Maybe next year. But yeah, this is pretty much my history with the Virtual Boy. Starting from 2008 to 2018, so 10 years. While I don't have as extensive and impressive as a library as many others that I know, it's my collection and I love it. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. I appreciate you all for watching, and until next time, guys, take care. Out to thank my Patreon supporters, the Side Quest Gamer, and my newest Patreon supporter, Michael Carter. Thank you all for your support. If you'd like to become a Patreon supporter of mine, the link is in the description below.